Doing great. Yes, sir. We're trying. Yes.
When
As we begin our meeting, please silence all your mobile devices. At this time, the mayor will call to order the regular city council meeting scheduled for 6 p.m. Tuesday, November the 7th of 2023, City Council Chambers, 201 East Nash, Terrell, Texas. We have with us here on the dais District 2, Grady Simpson, District 5, Phil Robinson. Not with us this evening, but are excused is Mayor Ronnie Velazquez, Mayor Pro Tem District 3, and Stephanie Holmes Thomas, Deputy Mayor Pro Tem District 4. At this time, I would ask for Minister Malcolm Duncan to come forward. He is Eastmore Avenue Church of Christ, and he's going to lead us in invocation. If you would please rise, remain standing for the pledges.
Let's go to God and pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you for your goodness, for your grace. Thank you for your mercies, Father. Father, we thank you because you are King of Kings and Lord of Lords. And Father, we come to you tonight with happy hearts that the council, the mayor, and all that are here to do and to complete the agenda, Father, we ask that you guide them and give them wisdom that they may focus on what is needed in this great city. Father, we thank you because you have blessed us in so many ways, Father. You have blessed these men and women who serve this community, Father, to be guided by your Spirit, Father. Father, we ask that you continue to be with them and guide them and help them that they may make the right decision each time, Father. We thank you for your goodness, for your grace. We ask that you bless this meeting tonight, bless each person, and bless each issue or concern that you have that are on the agenda, that we may all be satisfied as we leave this place. Be with us all. For this we ask. In the precious name of Christ, we say amen. Amen. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
Malcolm, if you would please come forward.
Sir, we want to say thank you for all your work for this community. We know that you're out there doing the difficult challenges and working with our faith-based community. I have a coin. We're celebrating our sesquicentennial, 1873 to 2023. If you come forward, we'd like to present this coin on behalf of the mayor and city council. We challenge you to continue to work with our community and fill that gap with faith-based. Thank you for all you do.
Thank you.
So our next item on the agenda is mayor and council community recognition and events. I think we have the British Bash that is happening, is it this weekend? Downtown. So I want to make sure that all of our citizens are aware of that and come out and have a good time for the British Bash. Does anybody have any recognitions that they would like to make? Also, this past weekend, if you weren't able to do so, at the theater downtown, the Irish Theater, there was a play presentation, and it was centered around folks who have been instrumental in Terrell way back in 1873 through the war, and they put on a good program. They did a good job. It's a little theater back there at the back of the Brooks and Crannies building. So encourage those who can, and want to support them moving forward, and we appreciate them doing that for us this past weekend. Our next item on the agenda is hear remarks from visitors. We do have someone who would wish to speak. Deanna Cole, if you would please come forward. If you would, please state your name and address. Oh, when you get to, to the mic, I'm sorry.
Leanna Cole, 1301 Davis Lane, Terrell, Texas.
Okay.
Okay, there's a few residents here from Davis Lane, which I recently found out there was an annexation on certain parts of our road, 2015, 2019. We pay taxes, so we're wondering, what are we paying taxes for? On our statement, it says roads and bridges, but we can't seem to get help because we keep getting told that our road is a private road. It floods. We have no access to leave our properties when it floods, and we have no, like, EMS can't reach us. Like, there's so many contradictions to what we're being told when your development plan for flooding for the city of Terrell, which we fall in the limits of, states that you're supposed to protect the residents. Does that not apply to us? Like, I have kids on this road. There's several small children on this road, excuse me. And I fear for them because we couldn't even leave our house. Like, the road driving up to our house was completely blown with water. The access road to get out completely covered, like, and we believe that it's happening because of the new development, like, it wasn't flooding before the new development. That we have residents that have been there for 45 years, and it wasn't flooding before. It's gotten worse. There's been an increase of water. Feel like it's due to inadequate drainage, culverts around our street. So if you don't want to fix our street because it's a private road, then fix the problem around our streets and protect us, the residents that live on this road. Like, something needs to be done, or before something horrible happens. Sorry, I'm not a good speaker. I'm trying.
You're doing
I
fine.
made
You're
some
doing fine.
notes. Okay. So some deaths have occurred off of 148. We're not too far from that, and it is I gave y'all some pictures in the pamphlets. I don't know if they were passed out to them. It shows you, like, our situation. It's dire. We want to know what can be done for us, for our safety, for convenience of being able to leave our property in the event of an emergency or someone being able to reach us. What our tax dollars are going to. It says roads and bridges, like, and then it's, like, where does the money go? We don't get city water, we don't get city sewage. What is it going to? Sorry, still looking. And how do we prove as citizens that the overflow from new development is coming our way? Because I've heard that too, that we have to be able to prove it, but it's almost like a no-brainer if you look at our area. Can we send someone out there to survey the area? I saw that in the plans. We just need help. I don't really know how else or what else I need to say. Just trying to look at my notes. Most of it falls to us as private citizens on this road, but the families who are on fixed incomes, we don't have that kind of money to fix that road. Like, something else seems like it should be done, whether it's FEMA or a grant or anything. You know, we need some help. Like, if y'all would just consider not continuing to say it's a private road and just leave us, with no help.
We'll have staff reach out to you and see if there's something we can do, okay? It's not a back and forth, but thank you for your comments. Is there anybody else here who wishes to speak? All right. Is this Gerald Murphy? Yes. If you would, please come forward and state your name.
Good evening, y'all. My name is Gerald Murphy. I live at 1361 Davis Lane. I just wanted to maybe add a little bit of history and of what I know. We purchased our 5 acres in October of 2019. And it was raw land. We had to clear it, grade it and everything. We built a new house and everything. So we've got a lot of pictures and we've seen a lot of things going on down this road. But over the years, I think really our main concern has been the water flow, because the neighbors have all kind of pitched in through the years to fix any problems with the road. Under normal conditions, everything kind of flows out pretty good. But when you have unusually heavy rain like we did 2 Saturdays ago, it's like sands through the hourglass. It only goes through there so fast. And there's only been one time prior to this that we've had an issue of it coming up over the road where we can't get in and out, and it was in 2021. So we've seen an increase of flow from basically what is now Sage Hill Road or something like that. It used to be County Road 305 and Interstate, 148. And everything goes probably from underneath there back toward our place. And we have a neighbor there, used to be Jeff Smith's rodeo arena and stuff like that. I've seen his place completely underwater. But it all kind of rolls from there down to us. And like I said, we just, our main concern really is just water flow, not so much the road, but we'd like to be able to get in and out. But just in case, you've got my name, my telephone number, and email in case you need, if you have any questions or whatever like that. And appreciate your time.
All right, thank you for your comments. You bet. We'll have staff reach out to you, please. All right. That one. And then, should I say? All right, just for the record, I do want to go on record in saying that we have received a petition from those on Davis Lane to convert from a private road to a public road. So let the record show that was delivered to us, and we'll go from there. We have someone else. Gerald, would you like to come forward? You're supposed to have you're good.
Gerald Harris, 11392 North FM 148, Terrell, Texas. My name is Gerald Harris. I am a neighbor of these folks here. I was asked to come by Mr. Jerry Murphy. And I can attribute to what's going on there. We have studies, and I know that there's been a hydraulic study on it, an environmental impact study. But the simple fact of the matter is what these people are seeing is from the development, right? And we all know that. The more concrete you put in and the less it goes into farm soil, it's got to go somewhere. It's directed to detention ponds over off of 148 for that development over there, okay? And everything is directed towards that creek, which is fair. But on the other end of the spectrum, you can talk downstream to the county commissioner himself, Mike Hunt, and he'll tell you that because of the Buc-ee's development and the large amount of space that we're developing over there, and it's being directed, and the creek is not being cleaned out. You have years of beaver dams, you have logs that are getting caught. This is practical stuff that actually happens. So those things should have been like thought about beforehand, and these larger companies, this is where we got into it with the annexation. The same things that we're hearing from these people tonight, we heard whenever I was back being a crusader for the annexation this last time. We got to change that. We got to change the narrative here. Mr. Simpson, I'm calling on you to look at this and take a personal look at it. Now, Mr. Murphy said he's reached out to you several times. I know I've reached out to you. I'm calling on you to look at this personally, please. Because it is affecting their lives, their everyday lives. Now, there might not be 100 houses or 100 addresses in this annexation piece, but let's not step over dollars to get the dimes here. Take care of your citizens. You're taxing them. It's the same thing we were preaching about our annexation piece. That's all we're asking for, is for y'all to fight for us every day. When we're having trouble getting to our homes or being scared that maybe their kids are on a pacemaker that they can't get medical care because their bridge is about to go out. There's things that have been done, there's and on personal side, but on the city has to understand of what those developments have done and the impact. And Mike, I know you understand that. You understand how the city works to and through. Please look at this for these people. I had water up to a foot in my building. I told you that. I have large equipment that I can bring dirt in and change my grade. And ever since I brought my elevation up on my side yard and created a berm, I have not had water in my building the entire time. There's sometimes it's not about spending millions and millions of dollars. Maybe it's an easy fix. But we don't know if we're not talking to our residents and we're not looking at how everything affects everything downstream in this situation. And creating a larger water flow to handle that concrete runoff. Thank y'all. Please look at that for us.
Thank you for your comments. Anyone else? Good. Our next item on the agenda is adoption of the minutes. It's item 4.1, discuss and consider the minutes of the regular city council meeting on October the 24th of 2023. Is there a motion on item 4.1?
Motion to approve meeting minutes as presented.
Motion, is there a second? Second. We have a motion from Phil Robinson, District 5, a second from Grady Simpson, District 2, to approve the minutes of the regular city council meeting of October the 24th of 2023 as presented. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, vote aye. Aye? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimous vote of those present. Our next item on the agenda is the boards and commissions. Item 5.1, discuss and consider appointment to the Library Advisory Board. This is Councilwoman's Stephanie Holmes Thomas, right?
Yes, and she would like to postpone
Okay.
to the next meeting.
Is there a motion on item 5.1?
Motion to postpone item 5.1.
I have a motion. Is there a second? We have a motion from Phil Robinson, District 5, a second from Grady Simpson, District 2, to postpone the appointment of the Library Advisory Board member until
Yes, the 14th.
next meeting.
Yes.
All right, is there any further discussion? All those in favor, let it be known by stating aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimous vote of those present. Our next item on the agenda is 5.2, discuss and consider Civil Service Commission appointment and reappointments. This is going to be handled by Don Stowe.
Yes, Mayor and Council, in your packet is the Civil Service Commission Board and one application, and this falls under the oversight of Grady Simpson.
Grady, are you ready to act on this?
No, Mayor.
Okay.
There's two other applicants that I definitely want to look at. I did reach out to Mr. Kenneth Baker.
Okay, yeah, so you want to postpone?
Yes, sir.
Is there a motion to do so?
Yes, Mayor. Motion to postpone the Civil Service Commission appointment.
Have a motion, is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion from Grady Simpson, District 2, a second from Phil Robinson, District 5, to postpone the Civil Service Commission appointment. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, let it be known by stating aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimous vote of those present. Our next item on the agenda, go ahead, Greg.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, item 6.1 is to conduct a public hearing to receive comments regarding amending the term and city's percentage of participation in tax increment reinvestment zone number 3, TERS number 3, and its benefits to the city, and to provide a reasonable opportunity for any owner of property within TERS number 3 to protest amending the term and city's percentage of participation in TERS number 3, which TERS number 3 consists of 766.07 acres of land generally located north of Interstate 20, south of and adjacent to Spur 557, and east of Terry Creek in Kaufman County, Texas, located in part within the extraterritorial jurisdiction and in part within the city limits of the city.
All right. Staff, who's handling this? Okay, Mike.
So, Mayor and Council, first, the location. You can get to TERS number 3 by going out Apache Trail, turn south on Las Lomas, go over the bridge, and you know there's a cul-de-sac down there where it changes immediately into being out in the county. At that cul-de-sac, that's where this piece of property picks up, and that's the, if you could just, yeah, hold right there for me. Nope, please don't. Yeah, just hold on the resolution. Okay, so if you just stop at the cul-de-sac, you look south, you'll see the vast piece of land there that's around that 700 acres. And basically, it's a long, narrow piece of land that goes all the way down to Interstate 20. So that's the location. Council approved that about a year ago, and a participation agreement was put in place with Kaufman County. Whenever that agreement was put into place with Kaufman County, we had certain terms and conditions associated with that. And I'm going to ask you, Dawn, go over to the ordinance that shows up later on after the finance plan, okay? There you go. Okay, so this ordinance is the proposed ordinance that we're going to be reviewing, and this one is the one that has the details in it. So the next page is where we start to pick up. So here's the history lesson. Whenever we moved forward on this, we wanted to make sure that we were in compliance with our participation agreement with Kaufman County. You can see the whereas up there at the second whereas that says pursuant to the county participation agreement, the county agreed to participate in TERS number 3 by contributing 90% of its maintenance operation tax rate. So under that heading of them making that contribution, as y'all know, and as we approved a little over a year ago, that participation agreement calls for certain conditions on that. And so there's a couple of kind of distant and hard to put your finger on, gosh, why would that ever happen, contingencies. So for example, one of the contingencies is, well, what if we violated state law and funded a public infrastructure project that wasn't eligible, or funded a private infrastructure project? Well, okay, that would be a reason for the county to move away and not contribute that 90%. Likewise, if we stop providing quality fire protection in that zone, that would be a reason for the county to walk away from the agreement. It's zoned, or the preliminary zoning, I should say, was for no residential. If you inserted residential within that zone, then that would be a reason for the county to walk away. So all of those things are conditions that are very expressly described in our county participation agreement. And as part of that, we already agreed that if the city were to go down the path of any of those legal contingencies and essentially break its agreement with the county, that the city would then have to pick up this amount of money of county property taxes and actually make due any payments associated with that. So I got a legal contingency. It's already in place. It's our compliance with the county participation agreement. As we were working through the process, the legal team raised their hand and said, you know what, we didn't answer as part of this. We didn't answer the question about how we're going to do that. And so this ordinance and the amendment that we're making is we already have a legal contingency. We're already obligated to the legal contingency. Now we're answering the question about, well, how would we make good on this legal contingency? And again, none of these things would happen if, as long as we're compliant with the agreement. So the first one is the term, and it has to do with when the tax increment refinance zone might approve some borrowing in the future. Right now, there's wording in there that allows that borrowing to occur, say, 10, 15, 20, 25 years after the creation of the tax increment refinance zone. Again, that would be borrowing to support public infrastructure. Well, what would happen if that borrowing occurred in a way where it overlapped past the 40-year time period? Well, we already said that was okay if it overlapped past the 40-year time period, but we didn't put an end date on it. So if you turn to the next page, Don, what you can see at the very top of this is we've inserted this December 31st, 2073 to create an out date and clarify what that is. The rest of it, B and C and all of the other details there, that's already the case. That's already what's in there. By providing December 31st to 2073, you put a more specific end date into the agreement and allows you to be clear that nothing can go past there, no payments go past that. So that's a good backstop and adds clarity to it. The section 3 here, where the amended city's percentage of participation, this is where we would go from 80% of our maintenance operation to 100% of our maintenance on operation if we violated, and you can see it deep in the wording there, if subject to city's performance of the property on Article 3, Section C and D, Article 4, Section E, Article 5, Section D, county lawfully, blah, blah, blah. Well, if the county is exercising its authority because we broke our word and we did these things we said we wouldn't do in the county participation agreement, now instead of just saying the city has to take up the financial obligation, we now say how the city would take up that financial obligation. And again, the legal team looked at that and said, yeah, we really need to add a how in order to move forward on this thing. And again, this is all coming up now because we're trying to finalize our negotiations to accomplish a voluntary annexation on this 700 acres of land. So that is a short nutshell. Pardon me for having kind of a long nutshell there. State law affords us the opportunity of a public hearing associated with it. And so even though it's a fairly detailed legal contingency and entirely consistent with the current county participation agreement, we do need to go through the process of the public hearing. And after the public hearing, you'll see that there's two things to discuss. One is the actual ordinance, which we're looking at now, and the other one is the finance plan, project plan associated with the TERS number 3, because of course this wording needs to be mirrored in that. So as we like to do, we've put both of those agenda items into the public hearing section so that you can kind of make your consideration of this item because both of those things need approval. So, pardon me for the lengthy explanation, but we did talk about it before when we actually called this public hearing, but I felt like it was worthwhile to kind of go through the details of that project again. So, Mayor, I'll turn that back over to you.
Okay, thank you. So again, this is a public hearing, and we'll have an opportunity to speak to Mike on this. This time we will gavel in and open the public hearing to receive comments regarding amending the term of the city's percentage of participation in the TERS zone number 3. Is there anyone here to speak on this matter? Hearing none, we will close the public hearing. Move on to item 6.2. Greg?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, we bring to you tonight on first reading ordinance number 3024, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Terrell, Texas, amending the term and city's percentage of participation concerning tax increment reinvestment zone number 3, City of Terrell, TERS number 3, pursuant to the Tax Increment Financing Act, Chapter 311 of the Texas Tax Code, containing findings related to the creation of the zone, providing a severability clause, and providing an effective date. This comes to you tonight again on first reading.
All right. So council, again, this is just a cleanup to determine how we're going to move forward with this, right?
Yes, sir.
Is that correct? We've discussed whether or not we wanted to do it, but now we're talking about how it's going to be done.
Absolutely. That was basically the legal advice we got. We already agreed to the policy. We already agreed to do this, but we never said how we were going to do it, and this buttons that part of the legal contingency up.
Thank you, Mike. Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Sims on how the process is?
Yeah, Mike, I have a couple questions. My initial question is, you know, what are the potential negative ramifications of us moving from 80% to 100% if there is some violation or something does occur? How would that impact us in real-world terms?
Well, it's a good question. So I would say that right now, we would have to study the dollar amount. And so I'll just give you a simple example. Let's say 20 years into the agreement, we have a year where the city property taxes are contributing $2 million to this, and the county is contributing $1 million to it. So we already said, and we already agreed, that if the city were, I'll just use the fire example. Say we stop providing quality fire service in that zone, and suddenly that zone has worse fire service, protection service than the rest of the city, right? So let's say we eventually got there for some reason that we can't imagine why we would do that, but let's say we do that in the future. Or let's say we vote, a future city council votes to add residential, even though we committed in writing no residential in that zone. Okay, so on those what-ifs, right now, if we had a year in the future where the city contribution to the TERS was $2 million and the county contribution was $1 million, we've already agreed that we would take up the slack, and if the city pulls that, if the county pulls that $1 million, we'll make up for that $1 million. And the natural question as we were talking about moving forward on this thing was, well, gosh, that's a lot of money. How would we do that? Well, you can get to the math correctly if you are moving from an 80% to a 100% on the M&O tax rate. And so my comment to you is, it would be a very painful moment for the city to break its agreement with the county. And I'm sure that 20 years from now, some future city manager is going to turn to a city council and say, no, that's a really bad idea because we have a huge financial obligation to make up if we go down that path. But the fact of the matter is the obligation's already there. This is how do we meet that obligation? Yeah.
With that in mind, you mentioned our fire protection obligations as well as our zoning obligations. What are some other factors that we have to consider that the city has to make sure that they don't do to avoid?
The main one is really to do with the nature of what we fund. And I'll just use the example of, let's say, and pardon me because it's on my mind, Buc-ee's has a private drainage system underneath their parking lot, okay? So it's a private drainage system, it's not a public drainage system. If there were TERS dollars going to repay a private developer for a private water system, drainage system, sewer system on their parking lot underneath of their land, and it wasn't part of a public system, then that would be a violation, right? Now, how do we police that? We don't accept something for payment or for reimbursement under a tax increment refinance zone deal unless the city engineer has certified that we're accepting it as public infrastructure. And actually, that's also the state law associated with public improvement districts. So we have two state laws, one TERS related, one public improvement district related, that we'd be violating if we ever did that. And then we'd also be violating our county agreement. So, I've always felt like the idea that we'd be violating two state laws and one participation agreement with the county to be such a legal, there's just not a lot of chance of a future city council doing that. But yeah, the possibility exists, so the wording in a contingency, deep within a legal agreement, needs to cover it.
So, Councilman, so some of the discussions that were had with the county as we were negotiating how we were going to make this work, where the city and the county both benefited, what came up in our discussions was, Mayor, you know what? We trust you. We believe in the current council, because you're the ones that are bringing it to us, but how are we going to be able to hold future council accountable? So we were able to say, you know what, that's a fair question, because you're dealing with a different entity, right? Same thing with us in the county. If the new commissioners get on board, who's to say they're just going to pull the funding and we're stuck with $1 million debt, right? So the purpose of the agreement and having a financial obligation associated with what we agreed to is to counter that and say it doesn't make sense for the city to pull out. It certainly doesn't make sense for the county to leave us and not perform, because we're also participating.
That makes sense. My final question then, are there any factors that are beyond our control that could result in us not meeting that obligation?
There are no factors that are outside of our of City Council's control. Every single thing that would kick this in would have to be a City Council vote. City council would have to vote to violate the zoning.
No, say, financial conditions or anything that might result in us having that.
These are all discretionary actions of a future city council would be the only possible ways we could be in this situation.
Okay.
No, and those are all good questions, and again, it was just a negotiating process to get to the point where we are now, where we're able to vote on the ordinance. Anybody have, anyone else?
That's all for me.
Okay, thank you, Councilman. All right, is there a motion on ordinance number 3024?
Yes, Mayor, motion to move ordinance 3024.
To approve?
To approve, sir. Yes.
Okay, good. There's a motion, is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion from Grady Simpson, District 2, a second from Phil Robinson, District 5, to approve ordinance number 3024 as presented. All those in favor, let it be known by stating aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries unanimous vote of those present. Our next item on the agenda is 6.3, discuss and consider tax increment reinvestment zone number 3, final project plan and finance plan. Again, this will be handled by our city manager, Mike Sims.
So, Mayor and Council, it's really the exact same thing here. The only edits to this from the previous time that you voted on it, 14 months ago, are the two edits that mirror the ordinance, so that the ordinance and the final project plan, finance plan match exactly. That was our due diligence effort here, because this document needs to match the ordinance. So we've updated this one to match the ordinance, and we provided for your consideration as well.
Okay, does anybody have any questions for Mr. Sims? Hearing none, is there a motion on item 6.3?
Motion to approve item 6.3.
Have a motion, is there a second?
I second.
Have a motion from Phil Robinson, District 5, a second from Grady Simpson to approve the tax increment reinvestment zone number 3, final project plan and finance plan. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, let it be known by stating aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimous vote of those present. Our next item on the agenda is 7.1, discuss, right, yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry. Yes, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, will bring to you tonight Resolution Number 2109, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Terrell, Texas, adopting the updates to the City of Terrell Employee Handbook by amending Chapter 5, Section 9, Assignment Pay Schedule, Section 10, Education and Certification Pay Schedule, Chapter 6, Section 12, Parental Leave, Section 13, TISD Volunteer Program, Chapter 17, Section 4, Authorization and Renumbering, Chapters 14 through 22, respectively, due to the deletion of Chapter 14 from the City of Terrell Employee Handbook and declaring an effective date.
Thank you. Again, council, this is one that we've discussed, has been brought to us, and I think most of the council participated in getting to where we are today. Mike, do you have anything to add to that?
Mayor and Council, this is just a real great appreciation. We talked about updating our assignment pay, our education certification pay. Council was supportive of that. It's an update, or a creation, I should say, of a parental leave policy that adds a little bit of additional benefit to our staff people who are welcoming a new child, either through adoption or birth. It creates our Terrell ISD volunteer program. I've had several conversations with Superintendent Warnock about this. I've had a discussion with some of our other staff about that. We're looking forward to getting that out there and getting that going. We did, as is normal for us, kind of clean up a couple of other little provisions of it to make sure it's easy to read. But that's the highlights. And again, everything in here is stuff that we did in our budget retreat. And this is really the last element of implementing things from the budget retreat for FY '24, because this is the policies that we need to have in place for starting the fiscal year. So again, great appreciation of the support council's had for this, and it's unchanged since the last time we've looked at it.
I will say or add to Mike's comments that the school district is very pleased that the city has stepped up and have a volunteer program for the school district to mentor some of its kids. So they were very appreciative of that effort. You might have any questions or comments on updating the employee handbook. Again, this is resolution number 2109. Is there a motion?
Yes, Mayor, motion to approve resolution number 2109.
Motion, is there a second?
Second.
I have a motion from Grady Simpson, District 2, a second from Phil Robinson, District 5, to approve resolution number 2109 as presented. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, let it be known by stating aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries unanimous vote of those present. Our next item on the agenda is 7.2.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, we bring to you tonight Resolution Number 2101, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Terrell, Texas, approving the purchase of 6.5 acres of land being part of the William Peters Survey, tracts 35.02 and 35.04, property IDs 187223 and 51233, City of Kaufman, Texas, the property by the Kaufman Central Appraisal District pursuant to the purchase and sale agreement between the Kaufman Central Appraisal District and the Kaufman Independent School District, and the construction of and related financing of a building pursuant to a lease purchase agreement as required by Texas Tax Code, Section 6.051B. Finding such action is taken within the time required by Texas Tax Code, Section 6.051B, ordering a copy of this resolution be provided to the chief appraiser and providing an effective date.
Council, before we move forward, can I get a motion to postpone this item, please? Oh, wait.
I need to read.
Okay,
it
okay,
into
okay,
the
good.
record, yeah. Just for the sake of making it clear that it's in the record, so Resolution 2101 is brought to us because the Kaufman Central Appraisal District is making request for permission to move forward on this land issue. In order to build their new building, they need to be able to secure permission from the taxing entities related to that piece of land. We've been discussing this back and forth with the chief appraiser. It seems like we're about ready to move forward on it, but we did want to do just a little bit more due diligence into this to make sure everything was put together. And it is in your packet, so it's deep within it, because we got a big packet this time. This is page 187. That's where Resolution 2101 starts. It's several pages long. It goes through all the details and the purchase price from the school. Remember, this is not the purchase of private land. This is purchase of land from Kaufman Independent School District. And then if you get over to agenda item page 191, that's where the presentation is associated with this. I don't want to, not that it's not exciting, but I don't want to bore you with going through that PowerPoint. So y'all can take a few minutes to look through it. This is the same presentation they've made at some of the other boards and school boards and cities throughout the county. The county did approve this. We know that the Terrell ISD is set to consider this at an upcoming meeting. And like I said, we had just a little bit more work that we wanted to do. And so staff's going to recommend postponement on this to our next meeting.
Motion to postpone?
Yes, Mayor. Motion to postpone resolution number 2101.
Motion, is there a second?
Second.
I have a motion from Grady Simpson, District 2, a second from Phil Robinson, District 5, to postpone resolution number 2101 as presented. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none. Oh,
quick-
go ahead. Yes.
Quick question. This is just basically just so I know what I'm looking at going forward to read through it. So the resolution basically is they're asking us to contribute an amount of money toward building the building, the new Central Appraisal District building.
I would
Towards
say,
acquiring
yeah,
the
think of it as they're killing two birds with one stone. One thing they need permission to do is there's a very complicated state law associated with when appraisal districts can buy land, and they need the permission of a certain percentage of taxing entities in order to go do that, right? So they're growing, that's no secret. We've got a lot of new development in the county. We want to make sure it's appraised correctly. So they've raised their hand and said, look, we really need to build a new building. Well, obviously, what's step one to build a new building? Buy a piece of land. So they're going to buy the piece of land, and then they're going to relocate and build the new building on this new piece of land. So they've really structured this so that they can move forward expeditiously on both of those things. If you've been down there, you probably just have to admit to yourself that their current building is done and it's out of space and out of useful life. So it's not like it's controversial at all about whether or not they need a new building. Like I said, we just have a little bit more work to do to make sure that we've got everything buttoned up and ready for your consideration.
Okay. Thank you.
Again, there's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, let it be known by stating aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimous vote of those present. Our next item on the agenda is 8.1, discuss Second Amendment to the City of Terrell and Terrell Chamber of Commerce Convention and Visitors Bureau Partnership Agreement. This is going to be handled by Downtown Project Manager Raylan Smith.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council. During the budget planning for TERS number 1 through 4 and also the Power Center, we included an additional $100,000 within our consultant fees and services line item for the amendment to the Terrell Chamber of Commerce Convention and Visitors Bureau to include marketing for those businesses within TERS 1, whether that be events or new businesses or additional marketing campaigns for those that includes our downtown, as well as those new businesses all within TERS 1. So this item went to TERS just as confirmation for the budget allocation that was made during our budget workshops. And so this would just be a recommendation from the TERS board to approve your Second Amendment.
How did the vote go for the, on the?
It was unanimous.
Unanimous vote? Okay. Anybody have any questions for Raylan Smith on this? Is this not to exceed $100,000?
Yes, sir. This is
right?
for fiscal year 24,
24?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
one-year contract.
Anybody have any questions for Ms. Smith? And your recommendation is that we move forward with it?
Yes, sir.
Gotcha.
This is discussion.
Oh, it's discussion, so anybody have any questions on this item? We'll see this next Tuesday? Okay. No question? Thank you, Raylan. Next item on the agenda is discuss update of Housing Department Administration Plan. Denise?
Good afternoon. Okay. So today I have presented to you the administrative plan for the Housing Choice Voucher Program. And every year, we're responsible for ensuring that it's in compliance with all our federal regulations. And so I've made some adjustments to this plan, and so I'm bringing it to you today for discussion. We're also seeking input from the citizens in the community, so if they have comments, they can also make comments as well. But I want to highlight 3 different areas in the plan that I seek your input regarding the plan that is presented. But in Chapter 1, one of the things that we have made an update to is the area of operation. Currently, we only serve the city limits of Terrell, but according to the local government code, Chapter 392, we have to go further, 5 miles around the city limits of Terrell. So that'll provide additional units for our families to actually seek out. The other section is Chapter 4, and these are local preferences. When we take applications for the program, we've identified additional preferences and clarified some. They also include the points that they will receive. When we take applications, we normally do a lottery, so all applications with the highest points will be at the top, and then the lottery will take place as a result of those points that they have. The top priority is residency. So if you're a resident of Terrell, they will get the most points regardless of anything else that they select. So that's one area. The third area, and not necessarily significant, are just updates that weren't in the plan previously. The plan, last time it was updated was in 2020, and now it's 2023, and rules and regulations have changed. So this is the admin plan. I seek your input and recommendations on any of the issues that are in the plan. And plans are to come back on December the 5th for your approval.
Okay, wonderful. So we're moving in the right direction. These are just federal regulations that we're updating,
Yes.
right? So what happens if we have another jurisdiction operating within our area? Do we as a city, or you as a administrator of the program, reach out to them and tell them you can't do that? And do they have to comply, or what's the penalty for them doing that?
Well, I've already began that process of contacting the other housing authorities that have families that are actually living in Terrell, and I have the support from our regional office in Fort Worth. So that process has started, so I haven't had any personal discussions with those EDs, but I will have those discussions with the three that are in question, which include Mesquite, Greenville, and Garland.
Okay.
And then also, I'm going to check into Arlington and Grand Prairie, because some of those agencies come this far. So we've got to check with those as well.
Okay. Good. Does anybody have any questions on?
Yes, Mayor. This has been something of concern of mine for a long time. It's good news to hear. So we'll pretty much be able to extend beyond Terrell city limits into Kaufman, Mesquite, as you mentioned, and all the other areas. I mean, how far does that go?
It's only 5 miles from our city limits.
Okay.
So it will, there's about 6 or 7 zip codes that encompasses. So wherever those zip codes are, and you should have a map in your packet that kind
yeah.
of shows the area that we will actually be able to cover. So any unit that's within those areas, as long as it's not in another municipality, then we can go into those
This
areas.
is a great jump start. Thank you.
So if it doesn't infringe on someone else's
City limit.
city limits or jurisdiction, then we can,
Right, so just to
okay,
be
got
clear,
it.
if it's inside the red bubble here, and it's not orange,
right,
then that's a zone that we will be operating in. If it's orange, that's another municipality, city limits, we're not allowed to operate there. But everything else within the 5 miles is an area we would operate in. So it's a little strange, but that's the state law on it, and this map is compliant with state law.
okay.
We can have an exception from those municipalities, but it would have to be an interlocal agreement between the city of Terrell and whatever the other city is that says it's okay for you to come into our area.
But they wouldn't do that unless I don't think that works for us.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
that was just a step that we,
Yes.
you know, one thing at a time, we
Right.
didn't even go down that
Okay,
path.
okay, good, all right. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Next item on the agenda, again, will be handled by Denise, is the discuss update on affordable housing study. Is that, you ready for that one? Go ahead.
Back in the spring, Claire Lozzi made a presentation to council about doing a affordable housing market analysis for the city of Terrell. Ms. Lozzi was kind of vanished, and we didn't know where she was. She was working with Texas A&M at the time, and we found out she's no longer there. I have made contact with her. We've actually signed an agreement, and she should have a study analysis done by the end of December. So I should be coming back in January with a report.
What was her name again?
Claire Lozzi.
Losey? No, so one of the things I think that excited the council members who brought this forward was that they were associated, she was associated at the time with Texas A&M.
Yes.
So who is she? Is she just on her own,
She's doing
Now?
this on a consulting basis.
on a consulting basis, no longer with the university in doing this? Was there a cost that was picked up by the university because it was done through the university that now the city's gonna have to pay, or how does that work?
I believe that's the case.
That's exactly the case, Mayor. The cost that we're under contract with is a cost that Texas A&M was going to do for free.
Right.
And then because this seemed like a reasonable total dollar amount for the study, I just went ahead and authorized it and said, let's keep going. I've had a lot of council interest in getting this done. This is going to help us with some of the demographic analysis that we do. And the work scope and the final product will be identical to the work that she was doing at Texas A&M.
So it's a $5,000?
Yeah, I mean, the fact of the matter is, she was kind of a one-person operation doing this through an office at Texas A&M, and when she left, no offense to my great A&M lovers and fans in city staff, but it was just something A&M didn't pick up and reassign to someone else. They said, hey, she's the expert, and we said, okay, great, we'll just stick with the expert, so.
All right. Somebody, questions for Denise?
Denise, when was the last time we had a study like this done? Is this the first time to ever do a study of this nature?
I think so.
First time ever? Okay. So we don't have any data currently?
Well, I would say
Except for
that
what-
we have, yeah, it's a very specific way of doing the analysis. Do we know a lot about the demographics? Yes, because we can study the census data and tell us, you know, how many people of different income levels are here. The thing that excited me and some of the other council people here was that this gives you a window about what we're doing is dividing the population in our analysis zone into quintiles, so top 20%, bottom 20%, and so on. And we get to look at, and we'll see results that say, again, as a for example, in the top 20% of income around here, are there houses that match their income level? And then the same thing for each quintile. So for the low-income affordable housing side of it, we'll see, okay, there's this many low-income households, and do we have more houses than they need, or do we have fewer? We kind of all know what we're going to guess on that, right? But when you see the data and you see her way of analyzing it and presenting it, I think that's a very effective study.
So understanding our city's needs to direct our efforts.
Exactly, exactly.
All right. Again, these two will come back to us in a week? Or what, when do
The
we expect?
affordable housing study, the work will get done by the end of the calendar year.
Okay.
So Claire and Denise will be able to present it in January.
Got it.
Yeah. mhm,
Okay.
yeah.
Good. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda, discuss letter of agreement for professional services for railroad crossing safety interim improvements. It's going to be handled by Raylan Smith.
Again, good evening, Mayor, City Council. As part of our city railroad diagnostic phasing testing that we had done during our quiet zone meetings with FRA and UP, we had a number of interim enhancements that needed to be done to our existing railroad crossings, such as new signs, some streets that needed to be painted, et cetera. They just had some suggestions. As part of our Chrissy grant, because once you qualify for a quiet zone, that puts you on an annual inspection list by the FRA. So it's highly recommended going through the Chrissy grant that you actually have a standard operating procedure for your checklist at each railroad crossing. And so because we don't have that currently, this would be an add-on to our existing quiet zone contract that we have with Kimley Horn. They were the ones that were involved during our diagnostic testing. They have all of the list of the recommendations. They will also know firsthand all of the add-ons that we will do to our railroad crossings for our safety measures that we're applying for within our Chrissy grant. And so this amount, which is not to exceed $63,000, would include concept design and a list of things that need to be done in the interim to make sure that we are up to code with all of our current railroad crossing, and would also put a standard operating procedure in place for whenever we do the upgrades for our quiet zones. So this funding would be available through the interlocal agreement with the Kaufman County for the 2019 bond funds. This falls within the amount that's been allocated. And so my request is that you would consider this next week as an add-on to the quiet zone contract.
This allows us not to miss a step as we move forward with this
Absolutely,
process. The
yes.
last thing we want to do is get to the end and we miss
Gives
something.
us some really good paperwork, and it assures FRA we're going to follow those
And the
rules.
funding is going to come through the Kaufman County bond
Absolutely,
program, right? So
yeah.
nothing from the city on this.
Exactly, yes, sir.
But you're recommending that we move forward with it?
Yeah,
As a
well,
not
I'll
to
bring that
exceed
to you next
63,000?
Tuesday.
Okay. Anybody have any questions for Raylan on this?
So that funding is paid by who, Mayor? You said the
County bond
The
program.
county bond program.
county bond
Mhm.
program.
Yeah,
Awesome.
it'll be within that line
Yeah,
item. Yeah,
beautiful.
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you, Raylan. Next item on the agenda, discuss the submitted bids for Highway 80 and Clockett Road drainage improvements. This is Jeremy. Come forward, please.
Good evening. So tonight I'm presenting the Highway 80 and Coquit Drainage Improvement Project, which is pretty self-explanatory based on the title. It was a drainage project designed to improve the drainage along Highway 80 and Coquit Road. Upon advertisement, we received two bids, one from Texas Civil Construction of $908,000 and ERS of Mississippi for $1.8 million, which was well over our design budget. So based on staff recommendation, we're looking for council to give a formal rejection of these bids.
To reject both bids.
Yes.
What was our budget?
The estimate was 670,000.
So even the lowest bid was 300,000 over. Okay, got it. Okay. Anybody have any questions? Delaying the project, I guess this is for, what does that do to us
As far
by
as
delaying? Are
our,
we going to rebid everything?
well, that will be a discussion at a later time internally. So what I was proposing, we have some staff that's actually willing to go out and try to conduct some of the construction in-house, which could drive a lot of the cost down. But like I said, it's a meeting that's going to have to happen internally.
Okay.
So we may
So
re-advertise.
there's an option to move forward with it at a
Yes.
lesser cost?
Yeah. and-
Okay,
and-
okay,
and
that's
just
what
to-
I want to make
yeah,
sure.
just to clarify that, it's not as if we would do all of this in-house.
Right.
The question is, could we do some of the work and then take it out to bid again, maybe as a package with something else? And between those two strategies, get you a better overall cost for this overall project. That's what Chris and the engineering team and Jeremy will be beating up here over the next few weeks. But of course, the formality is we have bids. We need to do the formal action of dropping the bids. And we'll come back with an alternate strategy just as soon as we can.
So from the mayor, and I'm sure from some of the council, we appreciate the fact that you recognize that it's quite a bit more than what we had agreed to initially when we were looking at the 600,000.
Yes, sir.
And that you're willing to do what it takes to get us back down to that number. Many times, the public thinks that we go to bid and whatever that cost is, we just pay it. So this is just, this is an example of the staff doing their job.
Yes, sir.
And making sure that we make good decisions here on the dais. So thank you for that. You might have any comments or questions?
I'm curious, I noticed these two bids are just wildly different. One is double the other one. Do we have any idea why they were so
That's
divergent in their
I
bid?
can't even blame inflation anymore.
That's Mississippi math, man.
Hey, I'll try this one on for size. Listen, a lot of people who have been watching these bids for a long time, we have kind of the nickname that, these are people, the high bid there, they're thinking of this as a get lucky job.
Yes.
Right? They just put it in there, they put a high number in there, and you know what? If they get it, they are the luckiest people in the world. And if they don't get it, they didn't care to begin with, It's not reflective of what they think the actual cost is. Can I get lucky? And we don't need to take bids like that, so.
Or maybe we're being just a little too conservative, possibly. I'm not sure. I know my path forward with working with consultants as far as advertisements, I'm looking at a 40% increase to whatever they're estimating to see if we can get a better number.
Yeah,
Fortunately.
the 1.8 million one is, they're just trying to get lucky. The 900,000, that's where I'm scared, right? That's where I'm scared that inflation is pushing that number, right? And we just all have to remember that as we're looking at everything related to stormwater, we have a lot of needs and demands and goals with stormwater. And it's one of the top topics we hear about. And every single council person, whenever we drive around a district, we always look at drainage. And we always try to consider drainage and think about drainage and come up with strategies for drainage. We want to push our drainage dollar as far as we can. We want to be as frugal as possible because we just have so much to deliver in the drainage world. So that's what we're thinking when we say reject the bids. We've got just so many priorities. We gotta balance this and spend our money as wisely as we possibly can.
Anyone else? Good. Thank you, Jeremy. Our next item on the agenda is consent agenda. On this one, there's an ordinance number 3023. We can pass this consent agenda as presented. Does anybody care to discuss ordinance number 3023? Hearing none, is there a motion on the consent agenda?
Motion to approve consent agenda as presented.
Got a motion, is there a second?
I second.
Have a motion from Phil Robinson, District 5, a second from Grady Simpson, District 2, to approve the consent agenda as presented. Any further discussion? All those in favor, let it be known by stating aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries unanimous vote of those present. Our next item on the agenda is to adjourn in executive session in accordance with Section 551 of the Texas Government Code to discuss the following: Section 551.072, deliberations regarding real property; Section 551.087, deliberations regarding economic development negotiations. We are now in executive session.
Get up here. Okay.
All right.
We're going to reconvene into regular session and consider action, if any, on items discussed in executive session. Are there any motions? Hearing none, we are adjourned.